Ladies and gentlemen, friends gathered in the warmth of intention and the search for wisdom, I ask you to still yourselves and open your listening hearts. We are living in a world of fast smiles and slick words, where honey may drip from a person's tongue, while venom lies coiled beneath their breath. In such a world, discerning truth from falsehood, love from manipulation, light from shadow becomes not only necessary but urgent. We do not always get the thunderclap or the flash of warning lightning when danger draws near. Sometimes the danger is soft-spoken, cloaked in kindness and dressed in charm. But fear not, for even in the dark the divine does not leave us blind. God in all his timeless wisdom does not leave his children to stumble alone. There are signs, unmistakable if we learn how to see, that speak to us, not in grand spectacle but in the stillness of discernment, the quiet of intuition, and the truth of our spirit. There are those among us whose intentions do not align with love. Some are broken, some are bitter, some are willful in their deceit. And yet they walk with us, shake our hands, call us friend, sometimes even wear the name of family or lover. We must not hate them, but neither must we invite the serpent into our garden. To protect your peace, to honor your calling, to walk faithfully in the purpose set before you, you must know when to step back, when to say no, and when to walk away. You must know how to listen when God speaks, not only through thunder, but through discomfort, through patterns, through the stirring of your soul that cannot be explained, but cannot be denied. The first sign God may show you is the absence of peace. There is a quiet knowing inside us, a whisper that hums when we are safe, when we are aligned with truth, and when someone with bad intentions enters your life, that peace will begin to tremble. You might not have evidence, you might not have logic, but you will have unease. And this unease is not to be dismissed. It is holy. It is the Spirit waving a red flag when your mind wants to excuse, explain, and endure. Peace is the presence of God, and when peace disappears, do not chase the person, seek the reason. When they walk into a room, and the air feels heavy, when you laugh with them but feel drained, when you find yourself anxious for no clear cause, that may not be anxiety, that may be revelation. Listen. Second comma. God may show you a pattern of contradiction between words and actions. Bad intentions rarely wear the same mask forever. Sooner or later, the mouth and the feet will walk in different directions. They will say they love you, but betray your trust. They will claim loyalty, but vanish in your hour of need. They will speak of integrity while moving in deceit. And you will be tempted to hold on to what they said. But God does not measure us by our promises. He weighs us by our fruit. Pay attention to what they do consistently. Not the apology, but the pattern. Not the regret, but the recurrence. Because a snake that sheds its skin is still a snake, and a person with bad intentions may dress themselves in good words, but time will always unveil the truth. Third comma. You may find that your purpose begins to dim around them. When God sends people into your life, they will challenge you, yes, but they will elevate you. They will call forth your higher self, stir your ambition, and celebrate your glow. But when someone comes with poison in their heart, your vision will blur. You will feel confused. Your passion may dwindle. Your goals may start to feel out of reach, and instead of becoming more of yourself, you begin shrinking to fit into the comfort of their presence. Let me tell you, anyone who requires your smallness to feel big is not sent by God. If your light offends them, they are not your tribe. If your growth makes them uncomfortable, that is not your garden. God shows you this by how much you must sacrifice of your own calling to maintain their comfort. That is not love. That is bondage, dressed as companionship. Fourth, they may isolate you, not always by force, but by sowing seeds of distrust. They may whisper lies about people who love you. They may play the victim to gain your sympathy. They may try to create an us versus them dynamic that leaves you dependent on their approval. At first it may feel like closeness, but God does not send people to shrink your circle through control. God connects, builds, and multiplies. If someone makes you question your family, your friends, your mentors, and eventually, yourself. Take heed. That is not guidance. That is grooming. A person with bad intentions will remove the mirrors from your life, so they can become your only reflection. And when you can no longer see yourself clearly, they have power. But beloved, God is a God of clarity, not confusion. Pay attention. Fifth, there will be subtle manipulation of your identity. They may compliment you with a twist. They may belittle you in the name of humor. They may constantly compare you to others, making you feel like you're never quite enough. Over time, you begin to question your worth, doubt your decisions, and rely on their validation. These are not accidental words. These are calculated darts meant to weaken you. And when someone consistently makes you feel small, confused, or guilty for expressing your needs, that is not your soul mate. That is your saboteur. God gave you your voice, your boundaries, your dignity. Do not silence those gifts to maintain a connection that costs your spirit. Sixth, God may show you that they are not accountable. When someone with bad intentions is confronted, they will deflect, deny, or dismiss. They may turn the blame on you, become defensive, or rewrite the story, so they are always the victim. Pay attention to how they handle correction. Pay attention to whether they can apologize, without excuses. Accountability is a spiritual mirror. It shows who is truly committed to growth, and who is only committed to control. When someone refuses to look in that mirror, they are not ready for intimacy. They are not safe to build with. And God will show you this, through cycles of conflict, that never lead to change. That is not a test of your patience. It is a warning for your protection. Seventh, there is a deepening emotional instability that surrounds them. Now we all have bad days. We all have moods. But a person with bad intentions will turn every day into a storm you must weather. You may find yourself walking on eggshells, never sure which version of them you'll get. You will begin to monitor your words, your tone, your needs, so as not to trigger their wrath or withdrawal. That is not love. That is fear. And fear is not from God. Love in its truest form is not only passion, it is safety. It is consistency. It is a shelter, not a storm. God shows you who someone is not only in how they treat you at your best, but how they behave when you disappoint them. If their love is conditional, it was never real. And lastly, perhaps most painfully, you will find that being around them pulls you further from God. Your prayers may become quiet. Your joy may dim. Your faith may feel foggy. The more entangled you become with someone whose heart is misaligned, the harder it becomes to hear the voice of God. Because chaos is loud, and God often speaks in stillness. If someone constantly distracts you from your spiritual disciplines, belittles your beliefs, or encourages you to compromise your values, that is not coincidence. That is corruption. God does not send people to pull you away from Him. He may use people to challenge you, to grow you, even to stretch you, but never to disconnect you. And if someone's presence makes you feel distant from the one who made you, you must examine who truly sent them. Now, I know this is not an easy truth, because the people with bad intentions are often the ones we love most. They may be wrapped in memories, entangled in dreams, and embedded in our hearts. But the heart is not always wise. It is tender, and sometimes it loves what it shouldn't. That is why God, in His mercy, gives us these signs. Not to shame us, not to leave us lonely, but to guide us, to remind us that we are worthy of sacred connections, that love should not leave us confused, diminished, or afraid, that trust is holy, that our purpose is too precious to be compromised by counterfeit companionship. You may ask, how do I respond to these signs? What do I do when I see them? You respond with courage. You respond with clarity. You respond not with bitterness, but with boundaries. You do not need to declare war. You do not need to make a scene. You simply need to walk in alignment with the truth God has revealed. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is no. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is leave. And sometimes the most faithful act you can offer is to protect the peace God has given you, even if it means grieving what you hoped someone would be. To the professionals in this room, trust your intuition in business dealings. That uneasy gut feeling in a negotiation may be divine foresight. To the students, choose your friends wisely. Your future depends on the company you keep. To the parents, teach your children not just to be kind, but to discern character. To all who hear this, let no one dim your light in the name of love. Let no one violate your spirit in the name of loyalty. Let no one sabotage your path in the name of familiarity. God is not cruel. He gives us signs. Not all storms come to destroy. Some come to expose. Not all endings are losses. Some are divine rescues. Trust the unraveling. Trust the discomfort. Trust the distance. When someone's intentions are wrong, God will not allow them to feel right for long. It may hurt. It may confuse. But it is grace. Even when it feels like grief, it is grace. Because He is not only a God who opens doors, He is a God who closes them. So walk with your head high, not in pride, but in purpose. Carry your discernment not as suspicion, but as sacred armor. Speak the truth, even if your voice trembles. And when God shows you who someone is, believe Him the first time, not out of fear, but out of love. For yourself, for your calling, for your peace. And when you must walk away, do not curse them. Pray for them, forgive them, but do not return to them. Let them go, so that what is meant for you may find you. Let them go, so your spirit may rest. Let them go, so you can grow into the fullness of who you are. Along this thread of truth and illumination, let us not forget that recognition is only the first step. Action, my beloved, is the faithful companion of wisdom. For what good is it to see the smoke, and yet walk into the fire? To hear the whisper of warning in your soul, and yet stay seated in a collapsing house? Too many have ignored the signs, because they feared the silence that follows departure. Too many have sacrificed their dignity at the altar of potential. But potential, untethered from integrity, is a hollow promise. You cannot heal someone's intentions by loving them harder. You cannot mold righteousness from clay that refuses to be shaped. There comes a time when you must stop fixing and start protecting. Not because you are unkind, but because you are sacred. And your sacredness requires boundaries. The truth, plain and sometimes painful, is that not everyone who walks with you is meant to stay. Not everyone who claps for you is happy for you. Not everyone who touches your hand intends to hold your heart with care. And yes, sometimes the lesson is not in how to forgive them, but in how to forgive yourself for staying too long. But hear me, staying too long does not make you weak, it makes you human. We are creatures of habit, of hope, of heart. We want to believe in change, to hold fast to memories, to give second and third chances, until our own reflection is barely recognizable. But when you know better, you are required to do better. And this knowing does not always arrive with fanfare. It may come on a quiet morning, in a moment of stillness, when the noise finally fades, and your truth rises like dawn. And when that moment comes, do not rush past it. Sit with it, honor it. For in that stillness, you are closer to the voice of God than you have ever been in the chaos. And what He whispers to you there is not condemnation. It is invitation, an invitation to rise, to reclaim, to return to yourself. And if rising means walking away, then you must walk with your head held not in sorrow, but in reverence. You are not just walking away from someone, you are walking back to purpose, to freedom, to clarity, to the life God designed for you before the world told you to settle. Let us speak, too, of grace, because even when God shows you these signs, He does not do so with cruelty. He reveals them with compassion, so that you do not waste years watering soil that will never yield harvest, so that you do not pour love into hands that only take, never cherish, so that you do not lose yourself trying to prove your worth to someone who cannot see it. The signs are not curses, they are divine alarms, ringing not to scare you but to save you. You were not made for confusion. You were made for clarity. You were not born to be tolerated. You were born to be treasured. And when someone's presence consistently robs you of joy, silences your gifts, or chips away at your peace, you must understand that the price is too high. Even if they once meant the world, even if their absence hurts, even if their leaving creates a hollow space, that space is not a void, it is a clearing, a sacred place for something truer, purer, and God sent to arrive. Now to the strong ones among you, those who carry burdens in silence, who smile through heartache, who show up even when empty, I speak directly to you. You have learned to endure so much that you have forgotten you are not meant to endure everything. Endurance is noble, yes, but suffering should not be your normal. There is a quiet pride in loyalty, but sometimes what we call loyalty is just prolonged self-abandonment. The world may have praised your resilience, but resilience is not the same as thriving. And if every day is a battle, if every conversation leaves you questioning yourself, if every interaction becomes a negotiation of your worth, then that is not resilience, that is survival. And God did not place you here just to survive. He placed you here to flourish. He planted you to bloom, and blooming requires the right soil. For some, these signs come once: a sharp betrayal, a clear violation, a single moment that tears the veil and reveals the truth. For others the signs are small, scattered, subtle: a missed birthday, a cruel joke, a consistent dismissal of your feelings. And you ask, am I overreacting? Am I being too sensitive? But the moment you must ask yourself if you're allowed to feel, you have already been diminished. Do not minimize your pain to protect someone's ego. Do not silence your voice to keep someone comfortable. That is not compassion. That is a slow erosion of self. And to those who have seen these signs, but feel paralyzed by the idea of moving forward, know this: change is not always a dramatic exit. Sometimes it begins with a shift in spirit, with the courage to say I deserve more, with the strength to set a boundary, with the clarity to pause, to question, to no longer make excuses for behavior that bruises your soul. And yes, there may be lonely nights. There may be moments when you doubt yourself, when nostalgia tries to rewrite history, when you second-guess the decision to walk away. But stay the course, for what lies ahead is not just relief. It is restoration. God honors obedience, even when it costs you comfort. He rewards courage, especially the kind that goes unseen. And every time you choose truth over illusion, clarity over confusion, love over fear, you are walking in divine alignment. You are becoming the person He intended before the world taught you to settle. And while the world may not clap for these quiet victories, heaven rejoices. For you have chosen light over shadow. You have chosen faith over familiarity. You have chosen yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of sacred duty. And when the time comes to open your heart again, and it will come, do not carry the bitterness forward. Carry the lesson, yes. Carry the discernment, but do not let the poison of past harm bleed into your future blessings. Everyone is not them. Everyone is not out to harm you. When the right people come, they will not trigger your defenses. They will not require your silence. They will not punish your sensitivity. They will water your soul, not with flattery, but with truth. They will see you, truly see you, and love you, not in spite of who you are, but because of it. You will not have to chase them, convince them, or exhaust yourself for them. And you will know that they are from God, not just because of how they make you feel, but because of who you become in their presence. But you cannot receive the blessing if you are still holding on to the burden. You cannot embrace the new if your arms are full of the old. So release what was never yours to carry. Let go of what was never meant to stay, and trust that in doing so, you make room for what is divine, what is healing, what is whole. I leave you with this: there is no wisdom in blind loyalty. There is no nobility in tolerating toxicity. And there is no reward for denying your truth, to maintain peace with those who have none to offer. You are worthy of intentional love, sacred connection, and unwavering respect. These are not luxuries, they are your birthright. And when God shows you that someone cannot meet you there, believe Him, not because they are evil, but because your path is holy. and not everyone can walk it with you. So be brave, be tender, be clear, and above all be faithful to the God within you, who sees what you cannot, who knows what you do not, and who never ever reveals without reason. His signs are not to harm you, they are to lead you. Follow them, even if the way feels lonely, even if your heart breaks, even if others do not understand. Follow them, for on the other side of obedience is not just safety, it is joy, it is peace. It is the life you prayed for, waiting patiently beyond the one you feared to lose. And if you have heard these words and felt the ache of recognition, if a face or a name surfaced in the silence between sentences, then I urge you to honor what has been stirred. For that stirring is not mere memory. It is not weakness. It is not a call to regret. It is the movement of truth rising within you, like a tide no longer willing to recede. It is your soul, long ignored, finally insisting on being heard. And in that voice, however quiet, is all the permission you need. For too long we have silenced ourselves in the name of harmony. We have tolerated the cutting tongue and the empty promise. We have explained away harm with histories, with shared burdens, with hope that tomorrow they will change. But change is not yours to force. Redemption is not yours to orchestrate. Your responsibility is not to save those who continually choose harm. It is to save yourself. When the signs appear, and they will because God is faithful, you must not just see them, you must interpret them. You must not only interpret, you must act upon what has been revealed. Ignorance is sometimes a mercy, but once knowledge arrives, denial becomes a choice. And every time we choose denial, we invite delay. Delay in healing, delay in alignment, delay in peace. We do not always feel the weight of that delay in days, but it settles in our bones, in our laughter that no longer feels free, in our fatigue that no longer lifts with rest. We feel it in the way our dreams become quieter, in how we second-guess joy, in how we slowly forget what we once loved about life and ourselves. There is, however, a mercy that follows every hard truth, and that mercy is choice. You are not bound to the story someone else wrote for you. You are not required to stay on a path just because you've walked it for years. You are not obligated to remain entangled in dynamics that diminish you, just because they once gave you warmth. People change. Situations evolve. And sometimes what began in light ends in shadow. That is not failure. That is life. And the sooner we learn to meet endings without shame, the freer we become. Not every ending is a mistake. Sometimes the bravest thing you will ever do is allow something to end before it destroys you. And let us be honest with one another. Not every person who shows you these signs will be a stranger or a fleeting presence. Sometimes they will be woven deep into the fabric of your life. A parent, a partner, a longtime friend. That is why discernment is not always a joyful revelation. Sometimes it is grief wrapped in clarity. But even then you are not alone. God does not show you the truth to isolate you. He shows you the truth to prepare you. Because he knows that peace cannot dwell in places built on pretense. That joy cannot grow in soil poisoned by manipulation. That love, the real kind, the God kind, cannot flourish in the absence of mutual care and honesty. And for those who struggle with guilt, the guilt of walking away, of saying no, of choosing peace over proximity, I say this to you. Your guilt is not divine. It is not holy. It is not required. There is no virtue in sacrificing your well-being to prove your love. You can be loving and still leave. You can be kind and still create distance. You can be forgiving and still refuse to go back. Forgiveness is not permission for repeated harm. It is a release. A way of saying, I free you from the debt, but I also free myself from the prison. You can forgive and rebuild. Or you can forgive and walk away. Both are holy. Both are whole. The wisdom lies in knowing which to choose, and when. There may come a day, perhaps not long from now, when you will be tested again. Not by the same person perhaps, but by the same pattern. And in that moment you will remember this, that peace is your compass, that boundaries are your right, and that discomfort is not a sign to retreat, but a signal to inspect, because the patterns of those with bad intentions do not often wear new costumes, they simply seek new stages. But if you have learned, if you have grown, if you have sharpened your spirit in the fires of past lessons, then you will not fall in the same way again. You will rise more quickly, you will speak more firmly, you will recognize the play before the curtain fully lifts. And then, dear one, you will become a light for others. For once you know these signs, once you live through their consequences and emerge whole, you carry that wisdom not just for yourself, but for others still caught in confusion. Your survival becomes testimony. Your healing becomes hope. Do not underestimate the sacredness of what you have endured. Every tear, every ache, every prayer whispered in the dark, they were not wasted. They are bricks now in a foundation stronger than before. And that foundation is not just yours to stand on. It is one others will stand on too. You may not know it, but your story, your truth, your clarity, may be the very thing that sets someone else free. So as you walk forward from this day, take with you the quiet strength of discernment. Take with you the sacred tools of observation, patience, and boldness. Take with you the unshakable truth that you are worthy of spaces that nourish you, people who see you, and relationships that reflect the love of a God who does not trick, manipulate, or confuse. His love is clear, it is patient, it is safe. And the more you walk in that love, the less you will tolerate anything less. And if you are wondering what comes next, if you're asking, what do I do once I walk away? You begin again. You rediscover your voice. You pour into your passions. You return to the practices that make you whole. You reconnect with those who genuinely love you. You rest. You restore. You heal. And in time you rise. Not as someone broken but as someone refined. Not as someone bitter, but as someone wiser. Not as someone hardened, but as someone rooted. The healing will not come overnight. It may come in pieces, but it will come. Because once you honor truth, once you obey the signs, once you put down what was never yours to carry, your hands are finally free to receive what has been waiting for you all along. And so I leave you not with answers, but with clarity, not with fear, but with hope, not with judgment, but with a mirror held with love, so that you may see, not what others want you to see, but what God has been trying to show you all along, that you are sacred, that your peace is worth protecting, that your future is not to be bargained with, and that when someone shows you through their actions, their energy, their presence, that they do not mean you well, you must believe them, and then you must bless them and release them. And even now, as these words settle into your spirit, you may feel a quiet trembling, not of fear but of recognition, a sacred shaking that comes when truth knocks on the door of long-guarded places. Let it in. Let it stretch out in you like sunlight on cold stone. Let it melt what you've kept frozen in survival. Let it warm the places where you have forgotten your worth, where your voice once whispered before it was silenced. This is the holy work, not done in cathedrals or in crowded rooms, but in the quiet spaces of your own reckoning. It is in that sacred reckoning that we meet ourselves again, often worn but wiser, bruised but beautiful, tender yet fiercely alive. And in this meeting, we remember that God never designed you to be small for the sake of others' comfort. He never required your invisibility as proof of your love. There is a particular kind of loneliness that comes with waking up. When your eyes adjust to the light, and you see, truly see, those around you, who they are, what they carry, what they bring into your life uninvited. That light can be blinding at first, but sight, beloved, is a gift. It allows you to choose again. It frees you from the dream you mistook for a promise. And yes, grief may follow. You may grieve the person you thought they were. You may grieve the story you built on shaky ground. You may grieve the years spent trying to earn love that should have never cost you your peace. But let that grief come. Let it wash over you, not as punishment, but as cleansing. For once the grief has passed, what remains is clarity. What remains is you, standing, heart still beating, spirit still intact, a little softer perhaps, but far more rooted. And I urge you, when you begin again, do so with gentleness. Do not rush into new commitments, or fill your hours with noise, just to drown the echoes. Sit with your questions. Sit with your silence. Listen to the language of your own soul. Learn the sound of your yes, and the firmness of your no. Practice walking away from what does not serve your healing. Learn to rest without guilt, to exist without apology, to laugh again without looking over your shoulder. These are not luxuries. These are necessities. They are the birthright of a life lived in truth. The world may not always understand this journey you're on. Some will call you selfish. Others may question your choices. Some may even leave. Let them. Their confusion is not your assignment. Their misunderstanding is not your weight to carry. You do not owe them the version of you that stayed silent to keep the peace. You owe yourself the freedom that comes with alignment. And when you move in alignment with God, you will begin to attract people who do not require you to fracture yourself to be loved. You will draw near to those who speak in the language of care, who know that love is not a transaction but a mutual tending. And when they come, you will recognize them, not because they are perfect, but because they feel like rest. And perhaps one day, when you look back on the one who showed you bad intentions cloaked in affection, you will not do so with anger. Perhaps you will see them through the eyes of grace, not to excuse the harm, but to release yourself from its hold. Because growth means seeing the full picture, not just the pain but the lesson, not just the wound, but the wisdom. And that wisdom, born of fire and silence and prayer, becomes the compass by which you navigate everything after. You will not be so quick to betray your instincts. You will not silence yourself to be chosen. You will not mistake intensity for intimacy, or attention for affection. You will know what love is because you will have learned, through loss and discernment, what love is not. And that more than anything is the gift hidden inside every dark sign, every quiet warning, every aching goodbye. It is the gift of coming home to yourself, of learning to honor the sacred in you, of knowing that even when people show you who they are in the most painful of ways, you still get to choose who you become in response. That is where your power lies. Not in changing them, but in changing how you care for yourself. Not in rewriting the past, but in reclaiming the present. And when you do, truly do, your life begins to shift. Not all at once, but steadily. Things begin to make sense. The right people find you. Opportunities align. Peace, that elusive thing, becomes a constant presence, not a fleeting visitor. And for those still waiting for their sign, still questioning what they feel, still stuck in that liminal space between knowing and doing, this is your moment. Do not wait for catastrophe to confirm what your spirit has whispered all along. Do not wait for collapse when you already feel the tremors. Do not wait for more hurt when you have already been hurting for too long. Sometimes the smallest sign, a tightened chest, a quickened pulse, a dream that keeps recurring, is the only confirmation you need. God does not always speak in thunder. Sometimes he speaks in unease, in repetition, in the quiet knowing that will not let you rest until you listen. So listen, honor the voice inside. It is not your fear. It is not your trauma. It is not your insecurity. It is wisdom, ancient and divine, speaking through your very being. And when you follow it, when you obey it, not only do you protect yourself from harm, you open the door to everything that is good and right and meant for you. You align not just with safety, but with purpose. Not just with peace, but with power. The kind of power that does not demand, but radiates. The kind that draws others near not to use you, but to walk beside you. The kind that comes from having seen the dark, and choosing, still to walk toward the light. And if you forget everything else, remember this: God never reveals the truth to shame you. He reveals the truth to free you. Every sign is a thread, pulling you out of the web of confusion, pulling you toward a life that reflects His love for you. Trust the thread. Even when it leads you away from the familiar, even when it untangles relationships that once felt foundational, Even when it leaves you walking alone for a while, trust it. Because on the other side of that obedience is a life you do not have to shrink to fit. A life where your light is not too much. A life where your heart is safe. A life where your joy does not cost your dignity. And when you arrive there, when you finally cross that threshold, when you breathe in the air of peace and authenticity and love that does not harm, do not forget the road you took. Do not forget the signs that saved you. Do not forget the strength it took to leave what you outgrew. And when you meet someone still stuck in what you survived, extend your hand, not to pull them faster than they are ready, but to remind them that freedom is possible, that peace is not just a dream, that clarity is not a curse, and that God, always, always, makes a way for those willing to walk in truth. This is your journey. This is your becoming. This is your return to yourself. Welcome home.